I was a Catholic kid. I grew up in the Midwest, south of Chicago. I actually lived in a neighborhood where the streets were named Holtz and Leahy and Parsegian, and was raised Catholic. I always wanted to go there.
Dr. David Tybor is now an assistant professor of public health at Tufts University in Boston, but he clearly remembers rooting for the Fighting Irish as a kid in the Chicago suburbs. And after graduating from a Catholic high school, he was accepted at Notre Dame for the fall of 1994.
In my family and in my network, if you got a chance to go there, you would go there. Why would you go anywhere else?
David was assigned to Zom Hall, an all-male dorm on campus with a moose mascot in the basement.
I got into Zom Hall through a family friend and was really excited about it. Zom had a reputation of just being a tight-knit, close dorm, a great community. I went to orientation, moved in, away from home for the first time on this campus in South Bend. Met our rector of our dorm, who was really charismatic and charming and just really beloved. Father Thomas King. He had a bunch of connections on campus. Like the first week, he took us across campus. He took all the freshmen across campus, and we went to Lou Holtz's office, who I think to a lot of us, Holtz was like a god of sorts. And here he's friends with Father King, and Father King is the guy living in our dorm who's, to take care of us.
But that first semester at David's dream school turned into a nightmare. He says Father Thomas King took him and a fellow freshman to the Rockney Gymnasium, known on campus as The Rock, claiming he was concerned about their weight and whether they were eating enough.
I got on the scale, and he asked me to strip down to my boxers, so I did. And he asked me to take my boxers off. No, I'm not going to do that. He asked the other kid to get on the scale. He said no, and they had left, and I walked back to the dorm, and it was like, okay, that was weird.
But he says it didn't end there.
He would say, hey, let's go back to the Rock and let's go check on your weight. This was my freshman year. This was first week of October. I remember it because Notre Dame was playing Boston College. It was an away game. After the game, King came and got me and drove me over to the Rock. And it was Saturday night. There was nobody around. And he got me back on the scale and had me stripped naked. He took me into the shower, and I was naked. He was behind me. I was facing the shower. I remember the faucets. And he started to massage my shoulders, and then he raped me in the shower from behind. And then he told me if I ever told anyone, I would be expelled, and I'd have to go home and tell people that I got kicked out of Notre Dame.
Father Tom, as he was known across campus, ran Zom Hall, the sometimes rowdy residents there called zombies.
Part of what the Zom guys would do is they would get dressed up in togas, which were the bed sheets from the dorm. Through the ritual, they would end up getting covered in mud. People were hit in the face with dead fish. People were baptized in the reflection pool in front of Touchdown Jesus. And then the Zom guys would go into the pep rally. This was usually the night before the first football game. There's like a little ramp, and it goes down into the basement common area, and Father King would be there with a hose. There's a lot of naked guys standing around being hosed off by a priest a couple weeks after you've come to the school. And it's okay, that's fine. It's just part of the initiation. Like, isn't it cool that Zom has this, like, the Odin, the ritual, right?
David says alcohol was rampant at Zom, and Father Tom sometimes joined in.
He drank a lot when there were parties in the dorm. He would be around, sitting there watching people.
Then there was the annual bun run.
Zom had a tradition known as the bun run, which was during finals week, like during the reading period. And the guys from Zom, we would get in the dorm and we would line up, and then we would streak through the student center, the Fortune Center, maybe streak through the study floor at the library. And He was there. He was right there in the hallway, as we ran out the dorm.
And David says Father King's sex abuse wasn't over yet.
It happened 2 more times. It happened at the grotto, which is like one of the sacred places there.
That's like a holy shrine.
It's like a holy, very holy place. The 3rd time he abused me, by this point, Brian, I'm trapped. I'm in this dorm on this closed campus. It's in the middle of Indiana. Freshmen aren't allowed to have cars. There's no Uber, and if I tell anyone, he says I'm going to get expelled. And I couldn't go home. The 3rd time I was in his car. We'd driven somewhere. We were in a parking lot. I don't even know where. It was at night. And he forced me to perform oral sex. And after that, I just tried to stay as far away from him as I could.
David says his mental health and academics went downhill rapidly after that.
I got 100% on my first 2 tests in chemistry and physics. And after this happened to me, I couldn't focus. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go anywhere.
But Father Tom also helped David at times, making him a Zom Hall orientation leader and more.
He also got me a job later on in our dorm kitchen. And I think that's sort of typical playbook for these priests, grooming or whatever you want to label it as.
David says he did try to report what happened to campus health officials.
I was having physical pain from the first rape, and I went to the infirmary, like the student service, and I told the doctor, here's the pain that I'm having. I was raped. He never asked me by whom.
Did you tell anyone else besides that doctor at the infirmary while you were at Notre Dame? Did you tell anyone else?
I was too afraid. I was too afraid to tell anybody. I was too afraid to tell the doctor that the person who had raped me was the rector of my dorm, who was living downstairs from me. I was too afraid to tell anyone about this for over 20 years. It's so embarrassing, shameful to talk about. I was a man. I was 18 years old. I was at college. And I let this happen to me.
And after years of suffering in silence, David welcomes the university investigation into Father King and hopes it's expanded to include other credibly accused priests from Notre Dame.
Are you confident that they are really going to get to the bottom of this and report it publicly?
I'm hopeful, cautiously optimistic. It's really important that Notre Dame collects the full story of not only what happened, but what was the environment in the system that allowed and enabled this to happen. Who knew what? When did they know it? My motivation here is just for the truth to come out.
He also wants answers from the Congregation of Holy Cross and Holy Cross College, where Father King taught for 10 more years, even after being suddenly removed as rector of Zom Hall in 1997.
If he was removed from Zom because of potential complaints about misconduct, why was he still teaching at Holy Cross?
And he wants other clergy sex abuse survivors on campus to know it is now safe to come forward.
It's not just Father King. The story is not just about one priest who was in a dorm for 17 years. It's a lot bigger than that. If some guy hears my story and comes home from work and just tells his wife, like, hey, I never told you about this before, but something happened to me that I want to set right, that I want to, I need to acknowledge. I'm carrying something that I've been carrying for a long time, and it's affected how I see the world. It's affected what I do, and it's time to talk about it.
I was the first person that I know of to speak out about pre-sexual abuse at Notre Dame, okay? 39 years ago, this December. 39 years ago. So 12,000 days ago, I called for an independent investigation.
Indianapolis tech entrepreneur John Michael Vore is a double domer, earning 2 degrees at the University of Notre Dame, a BA in 1986 and a master's in 1993.
I grew up in an Irish Catholic family. My mom was Irish Catholic. Growing up, she listened to Notre Dame football on the radio, like a lot of families did. And I think it was her dream for me to go there. I mean, I love Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame football still. I don't think I ever got over that, right? I was the kind of guy who, when Notre Dame lost, I was depressed for the whole week.
But John Michael had struggles when he first arrived on campus in the early 80s and went to Father James Burchell for spiritual advice.
I was really unhappy. I was thinking about leaving. He was my spiritual advisor. He was provost at one point. He was chair of the theology department at one point.
And instead of helping a teenage John Michael sort through his confusion about his sexuality, he says Father Burchell sexually abused him.
His method was, well, I think you need some lessons in intimacy, and I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to teach you about intimacy. And so, he, at the end of one session, or that session, he kisses me on the lips. And, that was just the beginning.
Father Burchell was eventually asked to resign from Notre Dame in 1991 over sexual abuse allegations. John Michael became a campus advocate, joining an unofficial gay and lesbian student support group and setting up safe spaces, a concept still in use today by the university-sanctioned group PRISM ND. Now, all these years later, he welcomes the investigation launched into allegations of sex abuse by another CSC priest, Father Thomas King.
Do you trust the university to do the right thing here?
None of us have felt like the university has ever done what it needed to do. The reason I came forward when I did was because he did hurt somebody else. He hurt other people.
Now he wants the university to expand its review to include Father Burchell and any other abusive priests on campus over the decades.
Well, why not extend the investigation to look into what's really going on here?
I went to Notre Dame because it was Catholic and I thought it would please my grandmother. My family is Catholic, grade school, high school, and then university. And I really did it to please her.
Mark Fuller is a 1977 graduate of ND who says he came from a dysfunctional alcoholic family.
So my freshman year was great. I enjoyed myself. A lot of intramural stuff. I was happy. That's about the happiest. It's like a country club there. It really is a nice place, and my home wasn't. So freshman year, great. Sophomore year, Father Bill Presley calls my roommate and asks him to come over and watch football.
At the time, Father William Presley was the rector at St. Edward's Hall.
A lot of young guys, maybe 8 or 10 of us packed in watching a television screen with Bill Presley.
But Mark, too, was struggling with being gay at age 19.
I was really confused about my sexuality and ashamed of who I was and how I was. And I wanted help. And I couldn't tell parents. I wasn't going to tell that grandmother. And I found a priest. He had a collar. He was a counselor on campus. And so I said, could I talk to you? And it was a confession at first. And he took my history, a couple of visits, like therapists kind of do. And so he learned about my home. He learned everything about me, all the vulnerabilities. And later he would use that to groom and later abuse me sexually. And actually everything he did wrecked that for me. Not only did he not make me straight, he wrecked all of it. And I've never really had a sex life since. Still single, no marriage. Gay guys marry. no kids, real tough time with other people, trusting me, trusting men, trusting anyone, trusting God.
It's a power imbalance, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And did you tell anybody what happened? Was there any recourse on campus because of that?
No, there was no one I was going to tell. I was so ashamed. I was so embarrassed. I knew pretty quick. And that's when the depression must have really set in. Now I see I couldn't get grades anymore. I couldn't focus anymore. I couldn't take notes. I kind of died.
Mark has since become a counselor for SNAP, the Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, and he helps others deal with the trauma and betrayal by someone you should be able to trust.
It's especially heinous. So it bothers me. I talk to people and try to help them understand what happened and let them know they're not alone. That's the best thing I can do.
I still feel that responsibility and shame and all that stuff, and I think every survivor does.
For John Salveson, the abuse started much younger. He says his abuse by Father Robert Hunneke started at age 13 at St. Dominic's High School in his home diocese of Rockville Center on New York's Long Island. And Father Hunneke was reported as Priest M in this 2003 special grand jury report into sex abuse there.
For him to come to befriend me and become close to my family, my parents were thrilled. I mean, they just thought this was the best thing in the world. When I started high school, he was a new priest, very popular, and he took me on a weekend trip. And in the middle of the night, he got into my bed and performed oral sex on me. I was completely flummoxed, shocked, didn't know what was happening. And that was the start of 7 years of abuse. When I would visit him in the rectory or travel with him, there was always alcohol around, gin, scotch.
Even at age 13, 14, 15?
Oh yeah. I could tell the difference between Johnny Walker Red and Johnny Walker Black when I was 14 years old.
Because the priest gave it to you?
Oh, totally, yeah. He always had alcohol, we always drank. It was always a big part of what was happening. But that's how I coped. So, by the time the abuse was done, I had a pretty substantial alcohol problem.
John says Father Hunneke even took him and 2 other St. Dominic students to visit Notre Dame when they were juniors.
I just thought it was a magical place. And it also occurred to me that being 700 miles away from Hunneke would be a good idea. So I applied early admission and got in.
And you thought, I got into Notre Dame, I can move 700 miles away
Right.
and be rid of this man.
Absolutely. I thought this is a great solution, and I liked the place.
But it didn't work out that way.
No, I found out probably a year in, maybe even less than that, that he had applied for a graduate school, for a graduate degree in psychology at the university, and had arranged to be the assistant rector at Kavanaugh Hall.
And the abuse followed John halfway across the country until his senior year.
How did you get out of that abusive relationship?
I tried for years. I said this has to stop, and I did everything I could think of to do. I avoided him, and he would react in one of 2 ways. He would just fly into a rage, tell me what a horrible person I was, couldn't believe with everything he's done for me that I could walk away from him, or he would burst into tears, just nobody loves me. You're the only person in the world who cares for me.
John went to the Diocese of Rockville Center in 1980 to report the abuse, but says it didn't take any immediate action.
And I've always thought, for me personally, that the abuse was horrible, but the treatment from the bishop and the church after the abuse, when I went to them, was, in my mind, is much worse.
And in 2003, John wrote this article published in Notre Dame magazine, sharing his story. Now, 22 years later, he hopes the university will finally do the right thing, release all the names of abusive priests, and put in systems to end clergy sex abuse on campus.
I think Notre Dame should become the Catholic institution in the country that sets the standard for how these cases should be handled. The truth is, most institutions, universities, everybody treats this as a risk management problem. I would love to see Notre Dame treat this the way a Christian institution would treat this, not the way a law firm would treat it. And what does that look like? It looks like coming out and saying, here's what happened, here's what we did wrong, here's how we failed. We acknowledge that. Here's what we're doing to make sure it never happens again. Here's what we're doing to help the people who were hurt.
That would be an issue that the American church and the whole church has dealt with. Society has dealt with it. It's in the news often.
Father Austin Collins is Vice President of Mission Engagement and Church Affairs at the University of Notre Dame. He recently got back from a 4-day trip to the Vatican to meet Pope Leo XIV with University President Father Robert Dowd and John V. Meyer, Chair of the Notre Dame Board of Trustees.
Did the investigation at Notre Dame come up at all during that visit?
No, it did not.
The first U.S.-born pope, though, has been reaching out to both clergy sex abuse survivors and their advocates recently, even hosting an activist group called Ending Clergy Abuse at the Vatican on October 20th. And the pontiff himself was accused of covering up abuse during his time as bishop in Peru. Father Collins believes Pope Leo understands the controversial issue and is prepared to deal with it.
I don't think anything would be a surprise to him. He's going to be pastoral. He's going to reach out. He's going to make sure he's going to make the right decisions. And he's not going to cover up anything.
Do you fear fallout from this sex abuse investigation at Notre Dame into Father King? Does that worry you that it could tarnish the university?
I really think they're addressing it. I think the worst thing to do would be not to address it, to give any indication of cover-up. I think it's that people need to be heard, and I think not only the church, but any organization where accusations are brought forward, they will be investigated.